I'm not in perhaps a unique position, but I'm in an unusual position of being a Denver resident who's a Jewish historian who's used the Beck archives in her own research. And that was true even before I moved to Denver, which demonstrates how the range of the archives really is nationwide, perhaps international also. I can't say enough good things about how valuable it is to have an archive like that here in Denver for the use of historians, for the use of local residents, for the use of students wanting to learn a little bit about Jewish history, and also for the programs that are offered. It's just a wonderful resource, and I'm so proud to be honored by this organization, the Rocky Mountain Jewish Historical Society.
I truly appreciate the honor of this event for the Rocky Mountain Jewish Historical Society. I have always deeply admired the work of the Society and the work of Jeanne Abrams, which has been so expansively multidimensional. I have always considered Jeanne in her efforts to tell the stories, and of course history is always about the stories, to tell those stories in the most engaging ways, whether it be through the archives themselves and the academic programs associated, or through exhibitions, a wide variety of public programming, the many books that she has written. I have always considered her to be quite boundless and fearless in the many initiatives that she's taken on behalf of the Historical Society.
I really am very proud of these 40 years. I think the archives have grown tremendously. The Historical Society has had really, I think, a major footprint in trying to publicize and bring to the attention the wonderful Jewish history of our region. And I think, as I said, we have a national reputation, and I'm looking forward to my successor moving that forward even more.
In 1893, Alice Friedlander, a remarkable young 17-year-old Western Jewish woman who went on to become a professional journalist, was asked to deliver the keynote address on the subject of women's rights before the Portland, Oregon Press Club. Her speech was published in full the following day in the Portland Oregonian.
This is woman's golden era. Not only in the newspaper office does woman find a clear field, but the time is near when women will vote and hold office, in the law, medicine, education, every walk of life. Requiring intellectual rather than manual force is wide open to the women of America.
While in retrospect, we may find Alice's words overly optimistic and naive. By the 1890s, women's sphere was undoubtedly enlarging, and in the American West, women already had the right to vote in Wyoming and Colorado. Indeed, in 1893, Denver was the largest city in America where women could vote. What's most important about Alice's vision is not so much whether she was correct in her assessment, but that it reflected the psychological sense of promise and opportunity that she and many women were feeling in the American West. In the second half of the 19th and early 20th centuries, Jewish women across America, including Colorado, were highly visible in the vanguard of social welfare and progressive reform endeavors, commerce, higher education, and the professions, as well as the maintenance of Jewish life. However, as one of the smallest among the highly diverse groups of Western female immigrants, Jewish women in the West were unusual in their disproportionate public visibility. They often opened new doors of opportunity for themselves and their daughters in a region which allowed them a place to grow and utilize their talents. Young Jewish women in the American West also benefited from the region's generally progressive attitude toward female education. Most people are surprised to learn that in 1900, the percentage of females enrolled in high schools was the highest in the West, slightly higher than the Northeast and significantly higher than in the South. The West was also progressive at the college level, where almost all schools were co-ed and Jewish women were quick to take advantage of educational opportunities afforded to them. A number graduated with professional degrees, and in 1900, while only about 8% of women held professional occupations nationally, nearly 16% did in the American West, virtually double the general trend. While benevolent work in charitable societies had long been considered the proper sphere of women in America, including Colorado, by the 1800s, stereotypes were being transformed. In addition to fulfilling Jewish religious imperatives and genuine altruistic sentiments, charity work developed leadership and self-confidence. For many women, it was a vehicle for developing management skills and the opportunity to assume influential public roles. Seraphine Pisko was a perfect example of a highly talented woman who used her volunteer experience as a stepping stone to a paid position and a remarkable professional career. Widowed at an early age and imbued with the progressive age spirit, which sought to apply efficient business practices to all areas of American society, Mrs. Pisko entered into a variety of charitable activities, as did her mother and her sisters. Born in St. Joseph, Missouri in 1861, Seraphine moved to Denver with her family at the age of 14. Seraphine served as the president of the Hebrew Ladies Benevolent Society, which was renamed the Jewish Relief Society in 1901. She was also president of the Denver chapter of the Council of Jewish Women, where she helped organize the Denver Jewish Settlement House and a free kindergarten to benefit Eastern European Jewish immigrants on Denver's west side. By 1903, she was a member of the National Board of the Council of Jewish Women and a prominent member of the Secular Women's Club of Denver. In 1909, Seraphine became a successful traveling fundraiser for the National Jewish Hospital for Consumptives. And in 1911, she was appointed secretary of the NJH to fill a sudden vacancy. She was later appointed executive director as well as vice president and remained in control of day-to-day affairs at the hospital until her retirement 27 years later in 1938. At the administrative helm of NJH, Pisko was probably the first woman in the entire United States to assume the position of chief executive of a national Jewish institution. Born in America in 1864 to German Jewish parents, Ray Morris David was a contemporary of Seraphine Pisko, and the two women worked cooperatively on charitable projects. Ray Morris married David, a pioneer Jewish businessman, in 1885. Left a widow with 5 children to raise, Ray David first worked at National Jewish Hospital as a social worker to assist former patients in finding jobs and housing. Mrs. David became an active member of both Congregation Emmanuel and the Council of Jewish Women, where she served as president in 1914, leaving her mark settling Jewish immigrants and aiding tuberculosis victims. In 1915, the Denver Jewish Aid Society was organized, and Ray David was hired as superintendent to oversee relief activities. By then, Ray had been appointed to the State Board of Pardons and the Denver Board of Charities and Corrections. She was an ardent advocate of progressive reforms of many kinds, including women's suffrage, humane treatment of the insane, penal reform, and a ban on child labor. The Schayer family endured a 7-week journey by covered wagon to arrive in the Colorado Territory in 1865. Hattie Schayer Friedenthal, the daughter of Charles and Ricka Schayer, graduated East Denver High School in 1884 and later attended the Denver Medical College. In 1891, she married writer Sigmund Friedenthal. A highly intellectual woman, Hattie became a well-known journalist with articles published in Harper's Magazine, and she served as an early editor of the Denver Jewish News from 1917 to 1922. In the Denver Jewish community, Hattie served as a vice president of the sheltering home, president of the Denver National Council of Jewish Women, and president of the Hebrew Benevolent Society. A newspaper obituary noted,
"Her devotion to all things Jewish was one of her ideal characteristics, and for nearly half a century her inspiring persuasive power had been felt in Denver."
In more recent times, Colorado Jewish women have continued their impressive professional legacy. Miriam Harris Goldberg grew up in Denver. Her husband Max Goldberg purchased the Intermountain Jewish News in 1943. When Max passed away in 1972, Miriam became editor and publisher, and remained at the helm of the paper until she died at the age of 100 in 2017. Miriam was a charter member of the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame. Law has been a very successful professional avenue for many Colorado Jewish women. Denverite Clara Mozzor was the first female assistant attorney general in the United States. Sheila Gutterman started her own law firm and earned a reputation as a prominent Colorado family lawyer. The late Zita Weinshienk graduated from Harvard Law School, and after practicing law for many years, went on to a distinguished career as Denver's first female jurist, advancing from Denver Municipal Judge to Denver County Court Judge, to Denver District Court Judge, and eventually to U.S. Senior District Judge for Colorado. Other prominent Colorado Jewish jurist Sandra Rothenberg, who currently serves on the Colorado Court of Appeals, and Veronica Rossman, who was recently appointed to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Lisa Reckler-Cohn has had a noted career as an attorney and as a leader in business and philanthropy. She earned her law degree from Harvard Law School, began in private practice with Hogan and Hartson, and starting in 2002 for 13 years, served as the Executive Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary for AIMCO, a national real estate investment trust headquartered in Denver. In 2020, Lisa was promoted to President and General Counsel for AIR, which was created from the separation transaction from AIMCO. She serves as a trustee of the Rose Community Foundation and a past chair of the Board of Trustees of Denver Jewish Day School. Born and raised in Denver, Krista Boscoe earned a law degree from the University of Denver. Since 1995, she has been a fixture at the Denver Jewish Day School, where she first served on the then Herzl Board of Trustees. In 1999, Krista joined the staff of the merged K-12 Herzl Ramah. Krista was the school's campaign coordinator in 1999, became its director of development in 2001, and was pivotal in its 2010 rebranding as the Denver Jewish Day School. During her nearly 25 years of annual fundraising, capital campaigns, and legacy work, she has raised around $100 million. Krista and her husband, attorney Mark Boscoe, are the parents of 3 grown children and grandparents of 2. In addition to her successful career, Krista has also been highly involved in the Denver Jewish and general community, where she serves as a past president of the BMH-BJ Women's League and the Leah chapter of Hadassah and the Colorado Plan Giving Roundtable. Dr. Eleanor Miller Greenberg was a nationally recognized educational innovator who worked tirelessly on behalf of women's and civil rights. She was a leader in adult education and development and believed that education was the key to social growth and justice. Greenberg was an activist for fair housing for almost a half a century and served on numerous boards, including the Colorado Women's Economic Development Council and the Women's Forum. Before it was common for women to become physicians, a number of Colorado Jewish women entered the medical field as nurses. Mildred Herman Schloss was a Red Cross nurse during World War I and later became a president of the Temple Emmanuel Sisterhood, where she tried to become a peacemaker when the issue of Zionism divided the congregation. Rose Weinberg served in the Nurses Corps at the U.S. Naval Hospital in San Francisco during World War II and received a commendation from President Truman for her exemplary service. Over time, Colorado Jewish women were able to distinguish themselves as physicians. Dr. Helen Morris graduated from the University of Colorado Medical School in 1956. Morris was the only Jewish woman in her medical school class and specialized in internal medicine, endocrinology, and immunology. She went on to earn a national reputation as an acclaimed researcher, and in the 1970s and 80s, she headed her own research lab at National Jewish. Her expertise led to prestigious appointments on the board of the National Health Institute and on a Federal Drug Administration Advisory Committee. Dr. Terry Finkel's research in immunology and clinical applications, as well as the inspiration she provides to women entering the field of medicine, has brought her international recognition. She received both her MD and PhD degrees from Stanford University. After completing her pediatric internship and residency at Harvard University and the University of Colorado, she did specialty training in pediatric rheumatology at the National Jewish Center for Immunology and Respiratory Medicine. There she greatly enhanced our knowledge of autoimmune diseases, AIDS, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and cancer, and was recognized for her work with T-cell research. At NJH, Terry directed 2 research labs and oversaw the care of 400 ill children. She is now the chair of pediatric rheumatology at the University of Pennsylvania Children's Hospital. Several Colorado Jewish women have excelled in a field that has not traditionally been open to females. JoAnn Silverstein, a registered professional engineer, is now a professor emerita at the University of Colorado, where she taught in the College of Engineering and Applied Science and conducted research in the field of wastewater management for nearly 40 years. She was one of the first female professors in engineering at CU and the first female chair of the Civil, Environmental, and Architectural Engineering Department, and the first female chair of any department in the college. In 1992, she received the Faculty Award for Women Scientists and Engineers from the National Science Foundation, and in 2000, she was honored as the Distinguished Engineering Educator from the National Society of Women Engineers. A veritable powerhouse, Jill Tietjen is a registered professional engineer, author, and international speaker.
I grew up in Hampton, Virginia. My dad was an engineer, PhD engineer at the Langley Research Center of NASA, which is where Hidden Figures was filmed. And I'm the oldest of 4. We were all told we were going to college. There was no question about it. And we were going to schools within the Commonwealth of Virginia. I wanted to attend the University of Virginia. And I'm very fortunate that I'm in the 3rd class of women there that were admitted starting in the fall of 1970. But I started at the University of Virginia as a math major because no one, not even my PhD father, said that I should consider engineering as a career with the talents and abilities that I had. So I'm at the University of Virginia in co-ed dorms in 1972, and there are a few women on my hall who are studying engineering. And my friends are engineers, and so I made all of the arrangements with the dean to transfer to engineering effective the start of my sophomore year. And I graduated with a degree in applied mathematics and a minor in electrical engineering. And I knew there weren't very many women in engineering at the University of Virginia, but it never occurred to me that there weren't any women in engineering, period. 1972 is the first year that the percentage of women nationwide in engineering graduating with BS degrees reached 1%. I graduated in 1976, and I went into the workplace, and there were no women. and I was involved in extracurricular activities at Duke Power Company with other women, the very few that there were. And then in 1979, I found the Society of Women Engineers and joined and served as national president in 1991, 1992. I spent almost all of my now 45-year plus career as the only or one of very few. And I actually think being Jewish, growing up in Hampton, Virginia, helped prepare me for that, because I was always different. And I was always different my whole career, but I was used to being different. That's how I grew up. I worked in the electric utility industry. I'm a utility planner. And what that meant was that I planned power plants. I actually helped power plants get licensed, permitted, and then into rate base. I did that by writing reports and by serving as an expert witness in hearings before regulatory bodies. And I'm very proud of quite a number of the power plants that I helped get licensed, primarily in Wyoming and in Colorado.
Tietjen has received numerous awards from engineering, civil, and social organizations for her service to her profession and her community. A past national president of the Society of Women Engineers, she served for 11 years on the board of Merrick and now serves on the board of directors of Georgia Transmission Corporation. Tietjen empowers women in her role as philanthropist and mentor. She mentors girls and women in technical fields and has established and endowed national and local scholarships for women in engineering and technology. She has successfully nominated more than 50 women for national and local awards and halls of fame. She has chaired nonprofit and state boards, including Girl Scouts, Mile High Council, and the State Board of Registration for Professional Engineers and Professional Land Surveyors. Her latest award-winning book, Over, Under, Around, and Through: How Hall of Famers Surmount Obstacles, was released in May of 2022. Tietjen has been inducted into the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame and the Colorado Authors Hall of Fame. Cynthia Frances Gensheimer is an economist who received her PhD from UCLA and began her career analyzing tax policy at the Congressional Budget Office in Washington, D.C.
I was a math major in college, and I started taking economics classes just because that field seemed to mesh nicely with mathematics. And very soon I became drawn into the field of economics, particularly public finance. So that when I graduated, I had a double major, and I never encountered any discrimination as a Jew or a woman in pursuing my career as an economist. My professors at the University of Rochester really went to bat for me, so that I graduated with a special honor from the university. And then, because of whatever they said about me, I guess, I was one of 2 recipients of a 4-year fellowship package for my graduate work at UCLA. And there were 30 students in my class, as I recall, only 3 women, including me. And once I got to UCLA, I wouldn't have been able to go without that fellowship because my parents had paid for my undergraduate work, but I was on my own for graduate school. And once I got there, I never once encountered any discrimination on the part of any faculty member or fellow student. And upon graduation, or when I got my PhD, I got a job at the Congressional Budget Office in Washington, D.C. I was studying the effects of different tax code provisions in terms of their influence, and I had to write in a way that would be understandable to members of Congress. I prepared congressional testimony. I wrote, I think, 5 or 6 different reports on different subjects, like how to revise the individual income tax, and a lot of the material would still be pertinent today. I taught economics at Vassar College, and there I taught public finance, so I covered issues like education and healthcare, and that was very interesting. And I also taught intermediate micro theory, and a course that nobody else wanted to teach, which was calculus for economics majors. And from the work that I did on Jewish women's benevolence and education, I have moved into now writing a book about the first Jews who went to the Seven Sisters colleges.
As vice president of the Jewish Community Foundation of Greater Kansas City, in charge of a strategic planning process, she decided to look to the past to try to understand how to motivate Jews to be more philanthropic. Drawn in this way to the study of American Jewish history, she has focused on the religious, charitable, and educational lives of 19th century Jewish women, particularly those living in small towns in the Midwest. She is the author of several articles on American Jewish women, which have appeared in scholarly and popular publications. Since she and her husband moved to Denver, Cynthia has been active in many local Jewish organizations, including serving on the board of the Rocky Mountain Jewish Historical Society. Cynthia and Joe are the parents of 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Joanne Marks Kauvar is a Colorado native, and she graduated from Wellesley College with a degree in art history and also studied studio art at Cooper Union in New York.
My interest in the arts dates back to my childhood, and I think of the ARC as stretching from the George Washington High School Art Club through the 40-year career that I subsequently had.
Her 40-year career in arts administration began with the National Endowment for the Arts internship at the Colorado Council for the Arts and Humanities, a state agency for which she subsequently directed visual arts and design programs for 10 years. A founding board member of the Meisel Museum of Judaica, Joanne served as administrator for 8 years, which marked her entry into Jewish communal work. She was named the first director of the Meisel Center for Arts and Culture at the JCC.
This coincided with an emergence in the United States of multicultural identity and people now reclaiming their ethnic and identities and exploring those identities. And of course, this was quite rich and quite vividly pursued in the Jewish community.
After 9 years at the Arts Center, she became the first executive director of the Council of American Jewish Museums, a national organization with her office housed at DU's Center for Judaic Studies.
The Council of American Jewish Museums is an organization with 80 member institutions across the United States. And what it allows is for each of the individual local institutions to belong to a larger collegial network, which of course enriches everyone, and to allow us to do that together, that which we cannot individually do.
She retired after 10 years in 2014 and currently has a weaving studio at The Temple, an artist center housed in the historic former synagogue in Curtis Park. Joanne and her husband, Dr. Kenneth Kauvar, are the parents of 3 grown children, and her grandchildren who live here are 5th-generation Denverites. Dr. Jeanne Abrams' contributions to Denver over the past 40 years have been immeasurable. Born in Sweden to Holocaust survivors from Poland, Jeanne grew up in upstate New York. From a young age, she was fascinated by early American history. After she and her husband Louis, a respected educator, moved to Denver in 1973, she earned a PhD in American history with a specialization in archival management from the University of Colorado at Boulder, where she wrote her dissertation on the Jewish Consumptives Relief Society Tuberculosis Sanatorium. In the course of her research, she visited the Beck Archives at DU. When the inaugural director, Bel Marcus, retired, Jeanne was asked to interview for the position, and the rest is, well, history. Over 40 years, she has remained at the helm of the Rocky Mountain Jewish Historical Society and Beck Archives, pursuing her deep commitment to preserving and publicizing the vibrant Jewish history and culture of the region and working tirelessly to build those institutions.
When I came on, I tried to develop a mission statement from the beginning, and that is the one we still have, and that our goal is to preserve and publicize the vibrant and vital Jewish history of the Rocky Mountain region with an emphasis on Colorado. So that has really kind of shaped my vision. Not only do we want to collect materials and preserve them for posterity, and I think most people recognize that the Beck Archives is the repository for Jewish history of the region, and that we're the go-to place for research and for donations of materials. And I see the Historical Society as the public face of the organizations. And so I think I've worked very hard to mount exhibits, programs, lectures that will bring that message to the general community and really educate them. And that's really been a guiding principle in terms of development as well, because I think once people understand how important and vital that history is and preserving that history for generations to come, that's also resulted in a lot of loyal donors and really significant financial donations.
Jeanne is a full professor at the University Libraries and the Center for Judaic Studies at the University of Denver, where she has long been recognized as a respected leader and professional who adheres to the highest academic standards.
Another thing that I've been able to do here, one of the favorite parts of my job is writing. I love research and writing, and so the nature of my position is that publication is something that is really honored here at the University of Denver, and it's been very fulfilling for me personally.
She has published 10 books, among them Revolutionary Medicine, The Founding Fathers and Mothers in Sickness and in Health, which was named one of the top books for docs by Medscape in 2013. Her books have received numerous reviews in academic as well as popular venues, notably the Wall Street Journal. She has given interviews on local, regional, and even national media outlets, presented lectures locally, nationally, and even internationally, and has op-eds published in the Washington Post and Time magazine. Over the years, Jeanne has been the recipient of numerous awards. She was named one of the American Jewish Historical Society's distinguished young scholars early in her career. In 2015, she received the University of Denver Lecturer Award, which has been presented to one faculty member each year for over half a century in recognition of superlative scholarship and research. Jeanne and her husband Louis are the parents of 4 grown children and are blessed with many grandchildren. Armed with a charming, unassuming personality, Jeanne has been a community leader. She is a past trustee of the Denver Glassman Foundation, a longtime board member of the Jewish Women's League of Denver, and a member of the Academic Council of the National American Jewish Historical Society. Golda Meir, who became one of the most influential political leaders of the 20th century as Prime Minister of Israel, resided in Denver for about a year and a half, from 1913 to 1914, and in her autobiography that year was one of the most seminal in her life. Golda's sister, Shana Korngold, was one of the hundreds of East European Jews who flocked to Denver to chase the cure for tuberculosis. After recovering her health, Shana married Sam Korngold and settled in a small duplex in Denver's West Side immigrant Jewish community. Golda ran away from her parents' house in Milwaukee to live with her sister when her parents refused to let her attend high school in her hometown. Golda thrived in Denver's more open environment and attended North High School, where she received excellent grades. Most importantly, it was in Denver that Golda was exposed to the many intellectuals who came to the Korngold house for tea and heated discussions about a variety of contemporary issues such as socialism and a woman's place in society. Golda recounted she listened raptly, and it was in Denver that she developed her commitment to democratic socialism. As Golda later recalled in her memoirs,
In Denver, life really opened up for me, and I found the ideological discussions about politics much more interesting than my lessons.
life really opened up, as Golda Meir put it, for many Jewish women in Colorado and throughout the American West. Jews who migrated to the region in the 19th and early 20th centuries encountered unprecedented opportunity and acceptance as pioneer community builders who helped create basic institutions. And Jewish women were quick to take advantage of their circumstances to open new doors for themselves as acclaimed and respected professionals. Jewish women in the American West broadened the definition of the women's sphere to showcase their considerable organizational skills and diverse talents, and helped counter previous constraints that defined the women's sphere. They were crucial to the survival of early communities and made distinct contributions not only in shaping Jewish communal life, but in the wider community as well. Western Jewish women's level of involvement at the vanguard of social welfare and progressive reform, commerce, politics, higher education, and a variety of pivotal professions is striking, given their relatively small numbers. These Jewish female pioneers of diverse backgrounds synthesized the Jewish, American, and Western values they had developed, and in the process, they helped shape the contours of the future of Colorado.